got elected to the board last year. I've been on the board for 1 year, which means I've had 3 meetings. That's how often the board of directors of the NRA meets, is 3 times a year. And so we're coming into my 4th meeting with several new people on the board, and I'm very hopeful and very positive about the direction that we're going now, the leadership team that we've got in place and that we'll have in place going forward. I'm feeling good.
All right, perfect. So that's a good segue. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. You've been an advocate over time that very, very vocal about the NRA needing reform. Why is that? And let's talk to NRA members who maybe haven't checked in a while, have held these memberships for a long time, or people who are thinking about supporting the NRA. They've been reading headlines. They're maybe a little disaffected by the news they've seen, the lawsuits, some of these things. Let's just talk at a real honest level. Why does the NRA need reform?
We had some problems. We had some serious problems, and I was raising those red flags for the last 20 years. And the problems, for a large degree, kept getting worse, not getting better. And what it really boiled down to was a small clique at the top of the NRA that had moved into, we're owed more than we're officially being paid, and they started increasing their perks, increasing their salaries, increasing what they were taking out of the NRA. And while in the big picture it was a small percentage that these guys were doing, and I'm talking specifically about Wayne LaPierre and some of the people under him, but at that time you got to consider that 5-6 years ago NRA was almost a $500 million a year business corporation, and something, I think it was probably somewhere between $40 and $60 million that was being misguided. It wasn't just being stolen straight out, but contracts that were being overpaid and deals that were too sweet, and a little bit of gravy along the way adds up to a pot of gravy.
Right.
And that's not good. And I have always pointed out that the lifeblood of the NRA is the $35 a year member. And I take that very seriously, and I insist that everyone in the chain from top to bottom is taking that seriously, and we are now.
So speaking about the $35 a year member, you've been on the road, you've been talking to people, you have people writing into you, I assume. You have many ways of communicating with people. What have those members been telling you? Have they given you a mandate?
Yeah, there are several things. The first is that Wayne and his cronies be gone. And to the greatest extent possible, we've done that. Doug Hamlin is our new executive vice president and CEO, and he's cleaned house at the headquarters building. We're reinvesting in headquarters, which was kind of running down. We've replaced a whole lot of people. We've put in new blood. Doug has consolidated and reorganized and brought things into line. Of course, we went through an ugly lawsuit in New York over the actions of Mr. LaPierre and others, and liability was found on the part of him and the others, and on the part of NRA itself, that we failed in our fiduciary responsibility of overseeing these funds. And some on our board still insist that no, we weren't found guilty of anything. We weren't found liable for anything. And I have a serious problem with that. We did. We were. I wasn't part of it at the time, but the NRA board was found liable for failure to properly handle our charitable funds. And I think it's important that we admit that and that we apologize for that, and that we move forward with a strong commitment that that is over and it's not going to happen again. And one of the things people say a lot is we want a full audit, we want full transparency. Well, we've had full audits. We've been audited by everybody and his brother. We have a brand new internal auditor and external auditors in-house.
And you have a compliance officer now.
And we have a full-time compliance officer who is an officer position. He reports to the board, not to anybody in the executive offices. He reports only to the board. And only the board can fire him. So, and if we do, it's going to cost us a lot of money because we've made a severance package with him that if we let him go, it's going to cost us. And I agree with that. I think that that's right and proper, that we better have a real good reason if we ever let him go.
It's a built-in incentive to make sure it's not political.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we also, the New York, NRA is chartered in New York, has been since 1871. So we have to run our corporation under New York law and under the auspices of the New York Charities Bureau. And the New York Charities Bureau, which is under the AG's office, brought the suit against NRA and some of our executives, and we are still under tight scrutiny from them, but they've audited our books. They've found us to be I's dotted, T's crossed, and the judge still has oversight over us. He still is keeping a watchful eye on us. So while some people continue to bring up issues that, well, this might not be exactly right and this doesn't look quite right, I'm not an accountant or a CPA, but people that I trust have looked at the finances. All of these auditors have looked at the finances, and they assure me that there is no corruption, bad behavior, under the table deals. All of that is a thing of the past, and I absolutely believe that. I'm committed to that, and I'm ready to move forward for the members of NRA.
All right, let's put the past behind us. That's worthy of applause. Let's put the past behind us. Let's look to the future. Can you give us any insight into what some of your objectives are, things you'd be focusing on legislatively, or from a membership perspective? What are the top two things in your mind that you'd like to tell our audience about?
From the membership side and the board side, the board structure, something that I've been advocating for years is a restructuring of the board. I'd like to see a smaller board, a more responsive board. I definitely want to see much better communication between the board and the members. I'm frustrated with the failure of those systems to be effective. And realistically, our members don't reach out to us as much as I wish that they would, but unfortunately, if they tried, it's not as easy as it should be.
It's gotten so big, hasn't it?
It
I
is.
feel that's what I feel about it. Is I've been a card-carrying member for 45 years. I was pulling trap from my dad that shot professional trap back in the 70s. So I've grown up in this world too, and it's like big government. We need to, same thing happens to government as happened with the NRA. It all needs to downsize, be more accessible. I don't feel like I can access them. I've got friends, well, now I do. This has been...
You now have friends on the board.
I feel like we're back to the family. It feels like a family situation this week here at NRA. That's the big thing.
So here's a grassroots member.
Right.
She represents
Yes, you're talking.
thousands and tens of thousands of women who may be in similar situations. How do you recommend people reach out to you now?
Smaller
What is the
government.
way-
That's what I was applauding. Smaller government.
But what is the way that they can most effectively reach you?
The easiest thing, I'm
Oops,
easy to
pardon me.
find. I'm really easy to find. If you put Knox and gun together anywhere on the internet, you're going to come up with Fort Knox safes and me.
Even Grok found you, by the way.
Yeah.
AI.
Well, good. And I have my own website at firearmscoalition.org. And I write for AmmoLand and Firearms News and sometimes other publications.
Maybe News2A.
There
Maybe
you go.
News2A. I am open to that. But so I'm easy to find, and some of the other NRA directors are easy to find.
And easy to
But-
talk to, and I thank you for
Right.
that.
Yeah, that's
That is important.
In the NRA magazine, it lists the directors down at the bottom of one of the pages back in the official journal section of the NRA magazines, and it says that you can write to us at bod@nrahq.org. But I've found that doesn't really get to us all the time. And while I know that there aren't a lot of people utilizing that web address, that email address, I also know that there have been quite a few people who have reached out through that haven't gotten through to me. I'm determined to get that fixed.
This is true. He gave me his number. That's how we got him on the show right now. Thank you very much, sir. That is important.
But that's open to pretty much everyone. Anyone who really wants to find me can not only find my email address, but my phone number has been frequently found out there in the ether. But I try not to just publish it, but at the same time, I know it's out there, and I don't mind. But there are 76 members of the board of directors. We elect 25 of them each year to a 3-year term, and one of them here at the events, at the annual meetings, to a 1-year term. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. They think that 75 is too many, and I tend to agree. My concept is I would like to see 3 bodies. I'd like to see an honorary group. That's where we put the celebrities and the people who want to be associated with us but that don't want to roll up their sleeves. Then we have a large group that I call the advisory board or advisory committee that would be basically this current board moved over under a different name and with some different authorities and responsibilities. That large group wouldn't have fiduciary responsibilities, but they would take care of, we have over 40 committees, shooting committees and collecting committees and hunting committees and all of these committees. I'd like to see those consolidated and be under shorter umbrellas with subcommittees, but that's a different topic. But then a third group that I want to keep down at around 9 members that would be a professional managing board that is the governing board and has the fiduciary responsibility and has those obligations. And that would be the governing board. We only meet 3 times a year. I would, if we brought in a professional board, I would want them to meet at least 6 times a year, and that they would be, in my mind, and this is all just draft, but in my mind, I'd like to see that advisory board appoints the governing board, and that they don't do it from their own body, but that we do executive searches, that we have job descriptions for each chair in that board. And this one's for a lawyer that knows about this stuff. Well, when he rotates off that board, and have some term limits, but when he rotates off that board, we hire a new lawyer that has that experience to fill that chair. And that's my basic structure.
Structured approach. All right, let's wrap up because I don't even know that I have enough recording capacity on my phone. But let's look at it from the member's perspective again. You've been a member for how long?
45 years off and on. Most of my life. I was probably 11 when I started pulling trap, and we all got memberships then.
All right, so you've seen the ups and downs, you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, hopefully excited about a new era. What would you ask through Jeff to the board? What's a question you have from a member perspective?
Well, it's not so much a question as a statement, and I'm more happy to see like the mounted shooting events, women's sports, women's guns. I taught women to shoot for years. I used to do, before North Carolina was an open carry state like it is now, we were concealed carry. So I used to have to do, I didn't have to, I was fortunate to be able to do concealed carry classes at my farm. And most of those people weren't members of the NRA before they got their concealed carry, but then they come out. Trap shooters, I think, are mostly members, and there, a lot of places are members, but we need a membership drive for the young people that are coming up in these mounted shooting sports and trap or skeet or
Right.
all of the
And
shooting
NRA
divisions.
needs to be more involved in
Yes.
these younger sports. We'd like to get more involved in these sports. And this is one of the things that, working with Doug Hamlin, I think that we're refocusing on our core.
Your core, yes.
The shooting sports, the collectors, the hunters, the new guys, the tactical guys, the guys who are what I was 20 years ago. They want real aggressive Second Amendment action, and I don't disagree, but they also make fun of the FUDs, which I have moved into that category now. And but the FUDs, they have to understand, it was the FUDs that saved all of their rights to this point. And
Right.
and now there's a lot of talk about lawsuits and the effectiveness of lawsuits and these other smaller organizations that are bringing these lawsuits today. And where's NRA? Well, NRA's there for all of it, but more importantly, almost all of those lawsuits are based on one Supreme Court decision, and that's the Bruin decision. That was New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. That is 100% an NRA case. We brought the case that is allowing all of those other cases to move forward. And while we've been struggling financially a little bit and trying to rebuild our membership and rebuild trust out there in the gun world, we're still active, we're still participating. And actually in 2024, in the elections of 2024, if you look at the FEC filings, the NRA spent about 10 times more than all of those other groups combined. Still, in our struggling position, we spent 10 times more than those other groups did. Comparing the NRA to any other gun rights organization in the country is like comparing the U.S. Navy to the Iraq Navy or the Iran Navy. They've got some speedboats and they've got some 50 cals, but we've got freaking aircraft carrier here, buddy.
So that's a great point. One, Bruin is probably one of the most foundational court decisions in the last 15, 20 years, right up there with Heller and McDonald. NRA deserves a lot of credit for bringing that forward. But rather than a comparison against other gun rights groups, and let's make this the last question and just wrap this up, 60 seconds or less. How do you see the NRA working with other gun rights groups going forward?
We absolutely have to. We have to quit this mentality of competition. We are moving all in the same direction. When Dad was executive director of ILA, he and Larry Pratt would talk on a weekly basis, and they would play good cop, bad cop with the politicians. We can do that again. We can move forward in cooperation with them, and very importantly, with the grassroots. We need to open up the channels of communication. NRA has a tendency to work top down. We need to open up the channels, back up the chain, make sure that when we come into a state, we're talking to the grassroots in that state, even those that aren't affiliated directly with NRA, and making sure that we're not stepping on their toes by coming in with something completely different, and that we're all on the same page going forward. We might not always agree on everything, but at least we know where the others are standing, and we put that out on the table right at the front so that we're not fighting behind each other's backs, and that's what I don't want to happen.
We're all after the same thing, aren't we?
Absolutely.
That's why it's like, you know, if you're not with me, you're against me. Well, all of us gun rights people have to be with each other. All of us have to stand together as one. Doesn't matter what group, we're all under one group.
And I'm a member of all of them. You know,
As are many of us.
Yes.
Well, I think we're all looking forward to seeing that. Thank you for hosting us with this conversation
Thank
today.
you. It's a
Jeff,
divine
thank you
intervention.
for sitting down with us and having this
I
conversation.
want to shake too, man.
And we look forward to
I know this was a divine thing.
We look forward
thank
to
you.
what's coming out in the next few days and following up with you on that.
yeah, I'm hoping to see some changes tomorrow in the board meeting and going forward full steam ahead, as Doug Hamlin says.
Awesome. All right,
Nice.
Thanks.
signing off to our
Choo
audience right there on that
choo.
camera.
Thank you all.